Hello everyone. In the last lecture, we had seen what is self-potential method. Hope you are aware. I said electrical methods has got many sub-methods, right? Some of them are, one is resistivity method, second one is self-potential method, third is IP method, that is induced polarization method. In electrical resistivity method, we had seen Werner method, Schlumberger method of arrangement, so many things we had seen. Then we had a look into self-potential method. Today we are going to look into IP method, right? In IP method, right, mostly this method is used to locate mineral deposits as well as in groundwater studies. This method is little bit complex, not very well understood. That means why IP is getting generated, we are going to see some theory, but not very clearly understood. This is an active method. Why it is an active method? In electrical resistivity, what did we do? We applied current and measured the potential. In self-potential method, did we apply current? No, we just measured the natural potential. So, electrical resistivity method is an active method, self-potential method is a passive method, whereas IP is a active method, which means we are going to apply current, right. So, this current is produced either by direct current, that means we may make use of a battery, or we can also use the direct power from the mains, that is the AC current, applied for geotechnical and engineering investigations. However, this is mainly used to understand the shallow subsurface, right, not in greater depth. So, shallow subsurface and often used in groundwater investigation, right. So, let us see how induced polarization is developed, right. We can deploy any of the electrode spread method we had seen under electrical resistivity method. To recollect, we had seen Werner, Schlumberger, dipole, dipole, pole dipole, like that we had seen many methods. This, what is this picture? This picture shows what electrode configuration? Yes, it is dipole-dipole configuration, because both current electrodes and potential electrodes are separated at a distance of some Na, right. This arrangement is known as dipole-dipole arrangement. How do we carry out the survey in induced polarization method? The equipment, everything is same, but what is the difference? Here in induced polarization method, current is applied between A and B electrodes, but the application of current is stopped abruptly, right. Let us imagine we are doing, this is dipole-dipole, now I draw Schlumberger configuration. This is current electrode A, this is current electrode B, this is potential electrode M, and this is potential electrode N. We are applying current between A and B and measure the potential between M and N, isn't it? In which method we were doing like this? In electrical resistivity method. We applied current, that means the battery is connected, current is applied, and the potential developed between these two is measured with a voltmeter. This is electrical resistivity method. What is the difference in IP method? This is the difference. We are going to apply current, current flows, but we will stop the application of current, right. when you stop the application of current, the voltage that was showing in this meter do not drop down to 0 instantaneously after you switch off. That means when you switch off, the voltage doesn't become 0, right. So, what we are going to measure is, right, as you can see, this is the period in which we are applying the current. We are stopping the application of current at this time. After the stopping of application, the voltage doesn't come to 0. This is 0, right. This is the voltage we measured during the electrical resistivity method, right. Now, we are going to switch off the current at this time. It doesn't drop to 0, but it drops only up to this, right. So, in induced polarization method, our focus is in this zone, not in this zone, okay. So, this zone was our focus in which method? In electrical resistivity method. Now, our focus shifts to this zone. This is IP method, right. So, what happens after you stop the application of current? A large initial decrease. From here, current has dropped very quickly to this level, right. Current has dropped quickly to this. From here, it has dropped here. Quickly it has dropped, but it doesn't go to 0 here, right. After that, voltage gradually decrease to become 0 value, okay. So, this transient residual potential difference that decays with the time, right, after we stop the application of primary current, right, is of interest to us in induced polarization method. Is it clear? Right? That means we have stopped the application of current at this time, and our focus now is in this zone, right. In fact, what is this area? That is our interest, right. The same phenomena may also occur when you switch on the current, right. Anyhow, that is not of our interest right now, but when you switch on the current, how the voltage instantaneously doesn't go there. It takes some time to reach that, right. The same phenomena takes place when you switch off the current also, right. I can say it is something like a old television set with a picture tube, right. When you switch off the TV, when the room is dark, still the picture tube is active, right. Still you see the bright screen for few seconds, only then it turns dark. It is something like that. You switch off the application of current at this time, the voltage doesn't drop down to 0, it drops down up to this, but it takes some time to reach 0. That is our interest. So, what is happening? Which means the applied current during this period is retained by the earth. That means earth itself functions like a capacitor and stores the charge for some time. That is what we call it as earth is polarized. That means ground is polarized. That means that is why it is called as induced polarization or provoked polarization. That means we provoke the subsurface to remain polarized. How? We are applying large amount of current, we switch off the current, but still the earth function like a capacitor and stores the electrical charge and remains polarized for some time. From here to somewhere here it has become 0. From during this time the earth is remaining polarized. How the earth can be polarized? How induced polarization is developed? That is what we are going to see, right. What happens beneath the surface of the earth, right. That means we said Earth is functioning like a storage of electrical energy for some time. How it is able to store? It is able to store in the form of chemical energy. That means this is caused by polarization of ions, similar to what we had seen under cell potential method in the electrical double layer at the surface of the mineral and fluid interface. Right? That means you have mineral on one side, this is mineral, here is water, mineral is negatively charged, here you have positive, positive, more positive, less negative. As you go away and away, only beyond certain distance you have both positive and negative in equal amounts. Okay. This double layer gets disturbed when you apply the current, right. When you remove the current, it takes some time for the double layer to realign and come back to its original position. During that time, some electrical energy is retained, right. The theory behind the induced polarization is of two types, right. One is known as membrane polarization, another one is known as electrode polarization. Let us briefly look into this. Our aim is not to really understand how induced polarization is getting developed, but we should know anyhow some fundamental. That is why I have put just couple of slides on this. In the first one, membrane polarization, what is happening is, right, there is a fluid conduct through which the fluid either moves or remains stationary. On either side you have rocks, right, and within the rocks you may have some fine material. This fine material is now negatively charged, okay, because usually the fine weathered powdery material from the rock is clay, they are negatively charged. Since it is negatively charged, all the positive ions forms a cloud here. These positive, where are these positive ions? Negative ions are there in the solid, in the clay, whereas positive ions are in the water, which is like electrolyte. These positive ions forms a cloud because the negative ions and positive ions attract each other, and here too the next group of positive ions, right. During such situation, we apply some current, isn't it? In induced polarization method, we apply some current, then we stop the application of current. So, when you apply current, there is some attraction between these two. There is kind of an agitation takes place when you apply the current. When you stop the application of current, they again realign to this position. So, during this process of realignment, some electrical energy gets stored as the subsurface function like a capacitor. Okay? This is what we are measuring in induced polarization method. Right? This is one theory. Then the next theory is electrode polarization. In electrode polarization, within a conduit, a situation may be something like this, right, where you have a mineral blocking the pathway of fluid, right, something like this, right. You may have a conduit having electrolyte, but there is a small piece of mineral that blocks, and it so happens that one side of it is negative, one side of it is positive. So, here you have naturally a setup something like a battery. This battery is going to be charged by the application of current, right. We are going to apply current, then stop the application of current, but even after stopping the application of current, this region now behaves like a battery, not permanently, isn't it, for some time. That is what is induced polarization method. Here is the time, here is the potential measured, potential is highest then we stop the application of current, then it slowly diminishes, right. At this time we stop the application of current, then but the current is retained until this time, right. That is what we are measuring. So, another reason for induced polarization is electrode polarization. On the previous slide we had seen membrane polarization. So, these two are common theories, but I told you right at the beginning, the theory behind induced polarization is not clearly understood, because what is happening below the surface is really hard to understand, right. Now, this polarization or chargeable polarization, what happens when you apply current? I had told you in the beginning, I am showing the same pictorially. So, this is what is happening in the fluid. You have the kind of a situation, something like a throat in the pore, right. The negatively charged surface, along with that you have positive ions. Here too negatively charged surface, adjacent to that is the positive ions. This is the natural situation. Now, we are applying current, right. We are applying the electrical current and we increase the charges. When you increase the charge, when you apply the electrical field, they are not aligned as you see here, but they are realigning themselves with positive ions on one side, negative ions on the other side, similar to electrode polarization. This is more or less the same I explained here. Similar situation takes place. So, on one side you have positive ions, on the other side you have negative ions. So, this itself functions like a battery, naturally developed battery below the surface of the earth, right. So, when you switch off the current, right, this leads to some polarization, right. Even after switching off, the electrical field is remaining there because earth functions like a capacitor and store the electrical energy for some time. So, that is what we are going to measure in the induced polarization method. That means, how much time the subsurface remains charged, that is what we are going to look into in the induced polarization method. In induced polarization method, we are looking for the chargeability. That means, oh, you are talking about this material, will it remain charged for more time? So, here we are trying to understand the differences in the natural material in terms of chargeability. That means, how many seconds it remains charged after switching off the current, right. This is time, we have seen this many times. This is chargeability. Let us say the unit is now in milliseconds and here is the time. Let us say if you take different materials, right, each material may be of different. So, let us imagine we are applying the current and we stop the application of current, it remains charged, let us say, for this time. Another material may remain charged only up to this time. Another material may be remaining charged until this time. So, each one of them is a different material, right. So, what are they? If you take this particular mineral, suppose beneath the surface of the earth, if pyrite is present everywhere, the pyrite is like a metal, so it remains charged for more time, right. If you take another mineral called magnetite, it remains charged for a lesser period of time. So, each mineral has got different chargeability. However, this experiment was conducted by assuming that these minerals are only 1% of the sample that was used. Okay. Even that 1% of the sample is able to produce so much of chargeability for this particular experiment, right. So, chargeability does depend on the mineralogical composition below the surface of the earth, right. How are we going to do the survey? I had explained to you already, right. This method is just identical to that of electrical resistivity method. I made a passing remark, but I would like to emphasize here, since in this method our aim is to polarize the earth. Unlike resistivity method, here we need to apply more current into the earth, about 10 times of the current that we used in the electrical resistivity method have to be used here, right? Almost 10 times of the current has to be applied, so that the subsurface of the earth remains polarized or remains energized for some milliseconds, right? What are all the electrodes we use? The same electrodes we had used in the electrical resistivity method is used. No need to use cell potential non-polarizable electrodes. Same electrodes can be used. What are all the configuration we can use? I had already told you, any configuration can be used for induced polarization method, like Venner, Schlumberger, pole dipole, dipole dipole. All these methods can be used, but most popular methods are dipole dipole, pole dipole and Schlumberger are the more popular methods that are used in induced polarization method, right. So, here are some configurations. So, this is what is known as dipole dipole, both current and potential are separate. In pole dipole, one of the current electrode is kept at greater distance, right. Apart from that, it is same as that of dipole dipole. So, this is in pole dipole, one electrode is kept at greater distance. Of course, this is well known to you. This is Schlumberger method. So, any electrode arrangement can be followed to carry out the survey, right. Now, let us see. Now, out of the three, generally we adapt to use dipole dipole array, because dipole dipole is little bit easy to carry out the survey, right. In fact, only one pair can be moved around the other pair. So, it is little bit easy. The spacing between these pairs will vary between anywhere as you please, right. Which is the constraint for deciding the electrode spacing? That means what you are looking for. What is the size of the object which you are looking for? Are you trying to understand the entire terrain, right? That is going to help us in deciding the electrode spacing. If the object which you are searching is very small, we need to go for very small electrode spacing. The thing which you are searching for is very huge, then we can go in for large electrode spacing, right. And dipole dipole method help in reducing the number of laborers which we need, right, because same person can manage one pair of electrodes, right. These electrodes are connected to the resistivity meter with a switching device, right. The resistivity meter we have seen previously, the same resistivity meter can be used for this survey, right. What are all the common arrangements? So, we have already said dipole dipole is the common arrangement. How we do is, this is one dipole, this is the another dipole. So, this is current potential electrode. We take one measurement. After making that measurement is applicable to the center of the spread. Okay. We have taken one measurement. Now, shift potential electrode from here to here. This is potential. Then take the second reading. Second reading is, which is the center point. This is the end. This is the second reading. 1, 2. This is how you progress in a profile. That means initially we use this pair, then second measurement was for this pair, third measurement is for this pair, fourth is for this, fifth is for this, like that you can proceed in a profile, right. Similarly, that is what I am showing here. This is the first portion as we are proceeding, second, third, fourth, fifth, that means you keep transferring the electrodes along one direction. So, this method is the most popular way of carrying out the survey. Why? You can also use Schlumberger method. This method is little bit easy to adapt in the field. That is why. Suppose If you prefer Venner, you can very well use Venner method too, but this method is little bit easy to operate in the field, right. So, as you progress along a profile, as I had shown you in the previous slide, right, we can also use multi-electrode system, that is imaging system, right. Or if you are just using 4 electrodes, move the electrodes slowly as shown in this diagram. So, as you move, these are all the points that are getting investigated below the surface. Next will be next profile, next one, as you see here, right. As you move, keep moving the electrodes, we continue to scan the subsurface at all these locations. Okay. Since we have the induced polarization values at these locations, we can also transfer them as induced polarization, equal induced polarization lines. That means we can have a profile made, right. So, this is how we carry on with the interpretation of induced polarization method, right.